I want to show you how important it is to learn entire sentences rather than just words. This is a really powerful technique that will potentially transform the way you learn a language. When I used to tutor German, this is the main method I used. And of course, with others, with the student, it's different. But you can use this method in self study really effectively. So when you learn a word by itself, like let's say you make an Anki deck or you download an existing Anki deck, and we look at a sentence like this. Now we have one, two, three, four, five words in here, but we don't just like you could memorize all the words in this sentence and you wouldn't get there. You wouldn't know everything there is to know about this sentence because we have a first person pronoun, we have a verb conjugated according to the first person pronoun. We have a time phrase, and we have to know where to put the time phrase in this sentence. We have a preposition, but we also have to know that this preposition is specifically used when you are driving to a city, and this is a city. So, I mean, and this sentence, by the way, means like I'm going to Düsseldorf tomorrow, or I'm driving. It literally means driving, but I'm let's not worry about that right now. Um, so instead of memorizing, okay, like we could have a flashcard, right, where we have the infinitive fahren, and we could know that that means to drive. We could have another flashcard where we could have like nach, and then on the other side we put like preposition used for various like this is the problem, right? We rather than just seeing the context, we're having to be like used for driving to cities and also used for the word after, and it just becomes like completely mathematical at that point. You're not really seeing the language in use, you're just memorizing, and that memorization does not easily carry over to your friend is talking to you in German and you need to say something back. It doesn't, you're going to really struggle to pull that, even if you've memorized it, to actually use it. It's just not going to come out. So instead, what we want to do is put a whole sentence on a flashcard, assuming that you like flashcards. You don't have to use flashcards. And what I want to actually show you here is a specific grammar pattern called verb second. This is used in Dutch, Danish, Norwegian, Swedish, and German. Probably some other Germanic languages, but I can't think of them right now. Um, Now, what verb second does is, like, let's assume, and this is how I would encourage you to do the flashcard for this. On one side of the flashcard, you would have Wann fährst du nach Düsseldorf? And then on the other side, you would put Morgen fahre ich nach Düsseldorf. And so the idea here is you have a question and an answer, and that's how I would recommend practicing this. Um, and I'm going to give you a lot of examples of how to practice this, but this is what you want to do on your flashcard. Now, verb second, what you'll notice here is this is the verb. And so we have it in the, we do like the position markings. Hold on. I'm trying to remember the German. I haven't used the German keyboard in a while. Forward slash, there it is. Whoops. So we have like here, position 1, position 2, position 3. Okay, now I don't really think it's useful to learn these rules as you would math and say, okay, I'm going to make a sentence. I'm ready to make a sentence. Where's position 1? What's position 2? What's position 3? You don't have time to do that when you're speaking. But I do find it useful to know the rule before you commit it to the flashcard, So what we're going to have here is morgen fahre ich nach Düsseldorf. Morgen fahre ich nach Düsseldorf. This is our like example sentence that we're going to memorize for verb second. It's going to be our like archetypical sentence for this grammatical structure, for this word order thing that we're trying to learn. So rather than trying to learn like the explicit rules of this verb second thing, we instead just memorize a sentence which gives us a clear example of how it works. So in this example, because we put the time phrase first, so like normally if you were just talking, you would probably say, ich fahre morgen nach Düsseldorf. Like if my question is, hey, was machst du? Was hast du vor? What are you planning? Ich fahre morgen nach Düsseldorf. But if I specifically ask you, wann fährst du nach Düsseldorf? I might answer in this way because your question is specifically asking me when. And so I'm going to start with the time, tomorrow. Morgen fahre ich nach Düsseldorf. And in English, you know, we would say, tomorrow I am going to Düsseldorf. We wouldn't say, tomorrow am I going? But that's what we say in German. That's how you do it in German because of this rule. And so rather than like memorizing the this rule as like the math, like I said, you just memorize the sentence and then you'll have it ingrained in your head. Now, memorizing the sentence isn't really gonna cut it. So what we want to do is practice using like, so when we start practicing with it, what we probably want to do is replace morgen with just another time phrase would be fine at first. And a key element of this verb second thing is the first position doesn't just mean it's a word. The first position could be an entire phrase. So to start off a more like, let's just make it 2 words. We could say, well, let's make it 3 words. Nach dem Frühstück. After breakfast. Nach dem Frühstück fahre ich nach Düsseldorf. So what we have here is and again, I'm not trying to like, and as you learn something like this, you would want to learn the rule, and you might spend a minute, 1 to 5 minutes learning this rule, like explicitly, just long enough to understand what's going on so that you don't get confused when you look at it. But from then on, you're really just kind of learning it by example. But so now we would have nach dem Frühstück fahre ich nach Düsseldorf. You wouldn't say nach dem Frühstück ich fahre nach Düsseldorf. That's not good. That sounds really bad. And this is a mistake. The longer this thing gets, the more likely non-native speakers are to mess this up. And this can get really, really long. And this is something which is used so often in German, like in normal spoken German, this happens all the time. And so you really want to get this down. So like, let's practice. We go, wann fährst du nach Düsseldorf? Morgen fahre ich nach Düsseldorf. Wann fährst du nach Düsseldorf? Nach dem Frühstück fahre ich nach Düsseldorf. Wann fährst du nach Düsseldorf? In 3 Tagen. In 3 Tagen. In 3 Tagen fahre ich nach Düsseldorf. Nach den Ferien, after the vacation, fahre ich nach Düsseldorf. In 3 Monaten, in 3 months, fahre ich nach Düsseldorf. In 3 Monaten fahre ich nach Düsseldorf. Nach der Schule fahre ich nach Düsseldorf. I'm driving after school. I'm going to Düsseldorf. And then those are a lot of examples of time phrases, right? But a time phrase could actually get very long. You could say, nachdem ich meinen Bruder abhole, fahre ich nach Düsseldorf. After I pick up my brother, I'm driving to Düsseldorf. Nachdem ich meinen Bruder abhole, fahre ich nach Düsseldorf. So and again, like I really want to emphasize this. This kind of thing, non-native speakers screw this up so often. They would say like, nachdem ich meinen Bruder, and in fact, this is its own beast. The word order here is its own thing that you would practice in the same way that you're practicing this. You would have a sentence like the one that I use with my students a lot was, I would ask, warum trägst du keine Jacke? And the answer would be, weil es warm ist. Why aren't you wearing a jacket? Because it's warm. Or alternatively, if it's the other way around, warum trägst du eine Jacke? Weil es kalt ist. So this is another German word order thing where you have a conjugated verb that goes at the end of the sentence. And these are, and any kind of German clause, like a sentence fragment that starts with because or after or whatever, takes this kind of word order. And so here we have one of those clauses, and then that whole clause occupies that position one. And then after the clause, we have to do the position two thing. Now, obviously, this would be a sentence which you would wait until you were quite advanced to like practice this, I think. But, you know, we could do, moving away from time phrases, we can still keep this position one thing relatively short in order to practice it. We could say, for example, the question could be, mit wem fährst du nach Düsseldorf? And you could say, mit meinem Bruder fahre ich nach Düsseldorf. Oder you could also say, mit meiner Schwester. And so what this is actually doing, you're getting to practice the dative case. You're getting to practice the preposition with, because after with, you always have the dative case. And this would be something you would practice separately as its own like base sentence that shows you how to use dative, that shows you how to use the weil clause word order. But what you're seeing here is as you learn a whole sentence, you know, these sentences, especially when you're just trying to pull them together, maybe you've memorized this as a separate sentence. I could literally ask you, warum, which is why, warum fährst du nach Düsseldorf? And you could answer, weil es warm ist, fahre ich nach Düsseldorf. So, you know, there's tenuous logic here, like, what does being warm have to do with it? But maybe, you know, maybe you just want to go there because the weather's nice kind of thing. But you can see, like, you have this sentence provide, like, let's imagine you've done this exercise repeatedly and you have a flashcard for one side, warum trägst du keine Jacke? Other side, weil es warm ist. And so you can pull weil es warm ist right out of your head without thinking about it. So you pull it out, weil es warm ist, fahre ich nach Düsseldorf. And then when you're talking to somebody in real life and they say, like, you know, warum hast du keinen Regenschirm dabei? Why don't you have an umbrella? And you're just like, weil es regnet. Or did I say have or don't have? Warum hast du einen Regenschirm dabei? Yeah, weil es regnet. Because you're like, you think it's gonna rain, so you have it's raining. Well, it's raining, but like, I'm trying to avoid using too many tenses here. But like, the idea here is that when you practice an entire sentence, you just hit, you know, like when you're doing a compound lift, like if you're deadlifting, you're not just exercise. Like if you're doing a curl, you're just exercising your bicep. But if you deadlift, you're exercising like every muscle in your body. And that's what this is doing. Like, because it's like you're incidentally hitting and reinforcing all of these other words that you've already learned when you do an exercise like this. So like, as an example here, so mit wem fährst du nach Düsseldorf? We did mit meinem Bruder, mit meiner Schwester. We could have wie fährst du nach Düsseldorf? How are you driving to Düsseldorf? You could say mit dem Auto fahre ich nach Düsseldorf. Mit dem Zug fahre ich nach Düsseldorf. I'm taking the train. I'm driving with the car. You could say mit dem Fahrrad fahre ich nach Düsseldorf. You could take a bike there if it's not too far away. But the key thing here is, like, as you try to practice this, you sit down with the sentence and you try to think, like, how much can I practice saying something fahre ich nach Düsseldorf, something fahre ich nach Düsseldorf. And you can really practice that a lot. And then what will happen is you'll really start to understand the structure intuitively. You'll hear it and you'll know it's right. And when you hear somebody do it wrong, when you hear somebody not verb second, when they say mit meinem Bruder ich fahre nach Düsseldorf, it will sound like nails on the chalkboard, because you've practiced this so many times, you'll just know it's right. In the same way, when you're speaking your native language and you hear somebody, if like English is your native language and you hear somebody say, like, I taked that out of the basket. You don't think to yourself, no, wait a minute, that's an irregular verb and the correct form. You don't think that. You just immediately hear and you say, that's wrong. And in my experience doing this kind of, and I do this when I'm driving a lot. Like, I'll be driving and I'm just saying sentences to myself. And in my experience, this really does achieve excellent results where you intuitively learn things that are otherwise quite difficult to memorize. And, other ways you could vary this up, you could switch it from, say you're still having trouble with certain conjugations. You can say warum. Oh no, not warum. Let's start it easier again. Wann fährt ihr nach Düsseldorf? Morgen fährt ihr nach Düsseldorf. Wann fahrt ihr nach Düsseldorf? Morgen fahren wir nach Düsseldorf. So you can, whatever it is you kind of need to practice, in this kind of exercise, your primary target, the thing you're mainly trying to practice, is verb second. But by simply changing the question and the pronoun in the question, you suddenly are getting to practice not just the pronouns, but the conjugations for the pronouns as well. And fahren is an irregular verb, so you get some extra practice there. And then, like, you could also practice, for example, assuming that you've already learned past tense, you could say something like, wann bist du nach Düsseldorf gefahren? Gestern is yesterday. Gestern bin ich nach Düsseldorf gefahren. So gestern bin ich nach Düsseldorf gefahren. This is another peculiar element of German grammar where you have to use I am gone. You don't say I have gone. With verbs that include movement or state changes, you have to say ich bin instead of ich habe. And so, again, you could practice past tense as you are practicing this. And what I would say is, this is your new thing that you're learning, and then you can practice the new thing at the same time as you're reviewing and reinforcing things that you've already learned. It's really, really powerful to do this. You will see really good results if you do this. Um, but the final thing I would say is, when should you do this? Like, it looks like I'm pulling a lot of words out here, right? I tried to keep it relatively simple, but for example, this sentence that I put all the asterisks next to, probably like as a German learner, probably you wouldn't be able to, this is an unreasonable sentence until you're in like the fourth semester maybe. But this second semester easy at least. I mean, like this is nothing too difficult. And you're going to need to learn that verb second thing early. Like that, it really does come out all the time. Like for example, um if you just say uh like auf dem Tisch, let me think of a better example. Like we don't need to get more like just trust me, it comes up all the time in German. And so you would target it like as, this is the main thing I'm learning, and switch it out with things that you've already learned. Pull in as many words as you know from already having learned them in previous like exercises. Um, I would say that you probably don't want to do this until you have like, let's say, you kind of need to have some number of vocabulary comfortably down, because you one thing you wouldn't want to do is try to make your sentences and feel like you just don't have, like, if you only know maybe like 10 different nouns or something, and you only know a few verbs, and you really struggle to remember all of these kinds of time phrases, it would probably be too early to do it. Like, I'm learning Korean. I'm in maybe my second month of learning Korean, and I find it difficult to do this kind of exercise in Korean at this point, just because I don't have a lot of vocabulary. Like, I've learned like tomorrow, today. I don't know how to say yesterday. I don't know how to say like after breakfast. I'm just really lacking the vocabulary to really do this in a way that feels like it's super effective. But as soon as you start feeling like you can do this, do it.